All right, everyone, we're going to start our March 25th, 2026 meeting of the Finance Committee. We're going to start off by dealing with the capital plan, and at the same time, we will be discussing Articles 67 Hardy feasibility and, as necessary, 66 Artisan Middle School. We had a big discussion about this a week or so ago. We've invited representatives from the capital planning committee in. I think I'd like to turn it over to the capital planning committee, including Darryl, to, I think everyone understands the issues. And so if you want to address them, and then Charlie, this has been your motion to reconsider. I'll give you an opportunity to address the issues as well, and then we'll open things up for discussion and hopefully come to resolution today. So,
is the presentation on WordPress?
No. But I'll forward it to you. I forwarded to the wrong email, so.
Because I can't see it.
Okay, I'll forward it right this second.
why don't you go ahead?
Alrighty, great. So thank you all for having us back. We are here tonight to talk a little bit more about the Hardy Elementary Feasibility Study and the Audison Middle School Feasibility Study, two projects that are currently in the budget for fiscal 27, the capital budget. They are, MSBA does require that we actually break out these as separate warrant articles, but we have captured the cost of these two feasibility studies within the 5% of the capital plan. So I want to highlight for you all why we're thinking about these plans and what they might cost. So the first is why. So this is part of a greater context of the work here in Arlington. So this is a project that is a piece of the puzzle that Arlington has been working toward for a number of years. So this is a very pretty visual, but essentially what it's highlighting for you all is that for since 2005, 2010, we've really been working to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, right? The select board, our elected officials have supported the greenhouse gas reduction goals along with a net zero action plan. So part of that net zero action plan is looking at our vehicles, looking at our buildings, some of the things that produce some of the highest levels of greenhouse gas emissions. The Audison is the most highest producing of greenhouse gas emissions, and the Hardy is the second highest. So this, in our plan, we have an opportunity to address two of the highest producing school buildings. This is just to give you the context. So I wanted to set the stage. This is something, the electrification plan is actually something that the Capital Planning Committee heard before it 2 years ago. Or actually maybe it was 3 years ago. Our sustainability manager came before us and introduced this idea of electrifying our buildings. Well, at the time, we were under the impression, or at that time, the price tag was about $10 million. And
per building.
Per building. And I want the Finance Committee to know that the Capital Planning Committee was very hesitant. We said, this is too much. We can't afford to do that within the capital plan, and that's a really high price tag in general, right? So it wasn't as if we were sort of like, hey, great, $10 million, let's move forward. No, they took that feedback that we said, listen, this is too much. And our sustainability manager has been working diligently to figure out what reimbursements, what grants, what other funding sources we might be able to tap into to make this something affordable. So we're reaching both our greenhouse gas emission goals, our net zero action goals, along with, keeping it something that the town can afford. You go to the previous slide, okay? Thank you so much.
Number 2 or number 1?
Oh, number this one. Okay, so this is just to show you what the Hardy is in the plan for right now and what that cost would actually be to Arlington. So right now, the feasibility study is in at $375,000. MSBA, we have been told, will be reimbursing at about 44% for our Audison plan. So we have an estimation of if we were to receive 44% reimbursement, and we would be responsible for the remainder here in Arlington locally, that would be about $217,000 for the feasibility study itself, which is the budget, which is the item we're actually voting on for next fiscal year. We have also requested an earmark from the state for $100,000. So it's possible, we don't yet know for sure, but it's possible the feasibility study could cost us around $115,000, $117,000 next fiscal year. That debt service is about 22 to 39, depending. 39 is more if we don't receive any additional earmarks for that feasibility study. The construction for this project is in the capital plan, but it's in the plan. It's in that 28 years when we would be looking to have the construction dollars appropriated. The debt service for that would be $515,000 annually after what we're anticipating to be MSBA reimbursements and other grants and rebates. This number certainly could change. This $4.5 million could change. We don't know. That's part of the reason we are interested in supporting that feasibility study. Because right now, as you all will see, actually, Makai, if you wouldn't mind going ahead a couple of slides, let's go. And there we go. So I think you all, we go back one, yeah, I think you all received this high-level budget. This is what our sustainability manager put together for us. This green box, that net cost to the town, that gives you an idea of just how sort of all over the map the reimbursements are right now. We don't know. We don't know what we would receive, which grants or rebates we might receive. Again, the sustainability manager is working very hard to apply for a number of different grants. Will you go to the next slide? So though we don't know, she has honed in on what she suspects is the most likely scenario. So Hardy is both our second highest producing greenhouse gases. It is also a potential site for geothermal. Within that study that you all saw from a couple of years ago, that is a site that could potentially do geothermal. Were that the case? So I hit a bunch of those other columns that was in that budget because I really wanted some of those items, the Green Works Energy, the Green Schoolworks Energy grant, that would have been $3 million. We have heard that has been very competitive, lots of applications. So I didn't even want to put that on the table. So this $4.7 million, were we to be able to do geothermal at the Hardy, is assuming it's actually assuming a 35% MSBA reimbursement rate, along with the rebates that Talia has laid out. So the IRA direct pay, Mass Save, and an MSBA reimbursement of $4.6 million and $1 million climate leaders. So this is a possibly likely scenario. Again, we don't know yet, right? We'll know in about 9 months from now what this would actually cost us were we to move forward with it. That's geothermal. Air source heat pumps are a little bit more expensive at $5.3 million. Were the MSBA reimbursement to be 44% and not 35%, this would be $3.5 million. So, significantly less expensive. Okay, so Charlie, thank you for all of your feedback on looking at the cost comparison. So we did I asked Jay, and the manager also took a look at, what it would cost us to do an in-kind replacement, the systems that exist currently, and if they were gas powered, right? So we're just replacing what we've got right now. So this is something that will need to happen over the next 3 to 5 years. These systems are at end of life. So these are costs that we will be bearing, whether it's within the capital plan or if we replace everything through an electrification plan process. So I think you all saw this, but we are looking at about $4 million for an in-kind replacement. So this is replacing the RTUs on the roof and the boilers in the basement. This is not taking into account everything in the middle, in the building. We're not talking about radiators. We're not talking about any duct work. So this $4 million, maybe it's a little bit more expensive if we're actually replacing some of the workings within the building. And it doesn't include air conditioning. So if we were actually doing an equivalent comparison, we would need to take into account that separate cost for air conditioning. So Jay also went through the exercise of putting that estimate together for us. So that's another $3.7 million. These are estimates, but another, few $1 million if we're talking about air conditioning. It is something that if we're doing new buildings, if we're building a new building, if we're renovating a building, because it is likely that air conditioning would be a part of that new building. So this is a more equivalent comparison. Also need to ensure that we are thinking about design and contingency. That's another couple $1 million. So an in-kind comparison is about the boilers, the gas-powered HVAC replacement would be about $10 million to give us, a sense of what that would look like when we're thinking about comparing the costs. Okay, will you go to the next? Okay, in summary, if we really wanted to look at the comparison, geothermal would be the most advantageous. This $4.1 million, I've now, you can see, changed that reimbursement rate to 40%. So a little bit between what we're probably going to get and what that slightly more conservative rate that Talia had. So 4.1 million, air source heat pumps, 4.8 million, and then as is with air conditioning would be $10 million. Were we to just do gas, no air conditioning, $4 million. So even still somewhat equivalent were we to just replace like for like. Do you guys want to add anything about Hardy specifically? Or do we feel like I've sort of covered that?
I think you've covered it.
Okay.
I would just emphasize that the reason the net cost for gas or like for like replacement is so high is because the grants go away.
Yes.
So we bear the full cost in that case.
Yes, the initial upfront for geothermal is $13 million. Yeah. I guess maybe that would help.
And utility incentives, if we did no like-kind replacement gas, we would not be eligible for any utility replacements. If you go to energy efficient heat pumps, no, we have to apply custom applications for incentives and utilities.
Is MSBA reimbursed for gas?
Oh, no.
Julie, just to make sure we're fully level set,
Sure.
with the Inflation Reduction Act rebates, are those still in play?
Talia did not have any, and in fact, I think she was saying that that is the only thing that the Trump administration is still supporting, geothermal. So, yep.
Annie and then Josh.
Okay, so we know we need air conditioning because we must have some temperature at which we can't have kids in the
Can you
building.
speak up, please, Annie?
We know we need air conditioning because there's got to be some temperature at which we can't have kids in the building. Do we know what that temperature is?
I don't know, but I was exploring, do we have a policy? Sounds as though we don't have an official policy, but it is something that the school, very much supports, being able to keep a climate at which we don't need to cancel school because the buildings are too hot. We have had to do that. And you all know that we use some of our buildings for cooling centers. But I don't know exactly what temperature it is, but it has reached it at our schools and been closed.
DESE has some guidelines, Mass Department of Education has some guidelines. I believe it's in the high 70s. I don't want to.
High 70s.
Yeah.
Internal temperature.
Yeah, like the maximum internal temperature. Yeah.
But if the external temperature is, say, 80 degrees, what is the chance that without air conditioning, the internal temperature of the building is going to hit 75?
Very likely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we know that already, and you're getting 80-degree days in May, much less in June. Correct? Okay, so the no air conditioning solution isn't really an option unless we're prepared to have a lot of days we can't be educating kids in, say, the month of June, which is usually the time when we are adding days because we had kids out because of snow. Okay, just wanted to get that on the table.
Josh?
Do you feel that the geothermal numbers include a contingency? And,
Yeah.
They do.
Yes,
We'd carry a high
actually, I
contingency
can tell
for
you.
anything, any of these projects. I mean, it's a very complex project.
Right, I mean, it's like 2.5 million for the gas, so I assume it's something similar.
Yep, 15% contingency, Talia
And
had.
I think on the original plan, you had most of the wells being dug like in the playground area, right?
I think you might be right. I haven't looked at the map in a bit, but I would have to look again, but that may be right.
And in the parking lot too, yeah.
I guess, as we think about the Hardy might be torn down at some point, if they could drill the wells in some place where they could be used, if the building footprint changed a little bit.
Interesting.
Good thing to think about.
Interesting. Yeah.
And also, do you have any operational cost comparisons?
You know, we talked a lot about if we're looking at the cost of electricity, the cost of gas. We did not include that. It's the communication was basically like, we don't know the cost today. So no, we didn't include that.
Michael and Charlie.
Do you recall the last time we canceled school at the Hardy because of heat?
No,
Or sent kids home in the middle of a school day because of heat?
I couldn't say off the top of my head. I can check.
There's an article on September 7th.
So we think we have a policy, we don't know what the policy is, we don't know.
We
what
do
the
not have a
number is,
policy.
And nobody
Mike,
can
we
remember
don't.
the last time we had to invoke a policy. if
There's
a
an
policy.
there's an article that it was done in September of 2023 at Hardy.
Excuse me?
September 2023 at Hardy. They closed the school because of heat.
2.5 years ago, okay.
Charlie?
I just have one question on the rooftop units. What's the capacity, what's the description of those units?
I don't know off the top of my head. I do know that they are it's at least the same as the capacity of the current, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's the same.
Based on
I
square
mean,
footage.
how can you know the price if you haven't?
You know what? I didn't put the cost comparison together. Do you have a sense, Jay, what they were?
I know cooling, heating capacity with heat pumps is about double cooling capacity, so it would be
They're usually
sized,
described in by tons.
correct.
Now, do you know what it is?
I don't know all the tonnage of every individual unit, but if you're heating with a heat pump, it's double the tonnage of cooling. So, 1 ton of cooling is 12,000, and then 2 tons is 24,000 when it comes to heating and cooling.
Yeah, but that wasn't my question. My question was, what's the capacity of each of those units?
I don't have that readily available.
Thank you.
Geothermal. Our church was gonna put in geothermal, and the company found there was too much shale underneath the church, and it just wasn't feasible. Do you know what's underneath the Hardy?
Not yet. If you do that feasibility study.
That's
we'll
the
know.
feasibility study.
They'd probably do a borehole.
They want to hit bedrock, so that's what they would like to do as fast as they can.
They love granite.
Nice little capacity.
Any other questions, Paul, and then Daryl?
Do we know the lifetime expected of the Hardy? When will we tear it down and build a new school?
The building itself. I should guess that.
I mean, we've done a substantial investment in the roof and the envelope.
Just at the fire alarm system, the
Yeah,
BMS
so
system. the
A lot
addition.
of updates have happened in the fairly recent past. I don't know how often do we do the fire alarms, maybe every 20 years.
Every 20 years.
Yeah, so, at least the next round of having to do some of those things is probably then-ish. It's a little hard to know for sure, but doesn't mean you tear the building down even then, though.
That was, thank you, that was actually gonna be my question. See, the point of it is making a large investment like this.
Yeah.
The school's gonna fall down next year,
Yeah.
wouldn't be worth it, but if it's another, I don't know what the right lifetime would be, then it is worth it.
Do you have anything else on Hardy? No, or the capital plan as relates to Hardy?
Just to add that all the equipment is in the 25-year range right now, so it is due for replacement, between now and the next 5 years. And those are the numbers Julie went over, approximately $4 million.
Other questions? Charlie, what would you like to add to this discussion?
I'd like to have, I have a presentation I'd like to have put up. Can you do that?
I can't.
Thank you. Okay, so, as you may recall, I made the motion last meeting to reconsider the capital plan because, capital budget vote because this item was in the capital budget. Apparently, we're taking it out, keeping it just in Article 67. And I'll just mention that I spent 25 years on the capital planning committee. Most of them, maybe it was 30 years, I don't know, most of them as chair. And I've been through a lot of rooftop units in the town during that period of time. And I was somewhat shocked by the price associated with this proposal of replacing the rooftop units on Arlington. So let me, so this led me to looking into this in a little bit more detail. Next slide, please. And I didn't, at the time, you know, I didn't have enough time to do as much work as I'd like, but I've done some more since then. So what I'd like to discuss is a little bit of the background information, our past spending, my observations on market input, and then some economic analyses on the types of products and capital expenses, just to give you a sense of how I perceive the numbers. And to be very honest, they're radically different than what was just discussed. And I challenge the numbers that we just discussed. I also want to, I'll point out to you when I come to it, there is a mistake in one of my slides, but I have a correction for it. And then I'd like to make some recommendations. So if I could have the next slide, please. So the first thing I did is looked in the past capital plans to see where we had rooftop units. And they were in various spots, and they were all around rooftop units, not individual units, but the program to replace the rooftop units were all in the $200,000 to $400,000 range over a bunch of years. But you know, candidly, in the summary numbers that were given to the town meeting, there wasn't a lot of detail. And while I think my memory is pretty good, it's not that good. So I got in touch with Ida Cody and asked her to research the invoices for HVAC units and related keywords for various, going back as far as you could. And when they changed the chart of accounts a couple of years ago, the current database is really only accessible for the past 10 years. In any event, I got to look at about 9,000 invoices and managed to whittle them down and pulled some information out. I was still in shock over this $4.5 million that was in the capital plan for the second year of this project. And so that's what had made me concerned about whether we should even think about spending $375,000 on a feasibility study. The other information that I used was the electrification and air quality master plan that the town produced in 2023. And that provides a lot of information comparing these VRF versus the GSHP heat pump technology. But it does not examine the cost of these things at all with respect to current technology. It just sort of ignores it. And my recollection is the hardy cost in that plan was $11 million. And when I say cost, I'm talking about the raw cost, okay? And the raw cost number that Julie sent us out was about $13 million. I don't know what the difference was, but That's what it was. And, you know, all of the work I did is somewhat in the SharePoint site. I hope it's all there, and I caution you that it's not very neat, but it's there. The next slide, please. This is a summary of what I extracted from the invoices for various HVAC and related projects over the last, I don't know, 10, maybe 6 or 7 years. I didn't get too many back beyond that. And it's hard to see up on that chart. Let me see if I can't even see it on the screen, but basically, all of these costs, these are replacement costs, okay? They're basically unit costs between 20,000 and, as if you assume it's only one unit, the highest would be about $400,000, $470,000, a little bit less than $500,000. But they're more than one unit in these purchases. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to the purchase order information, so I just made some estimates, and you can figure out, looking at this chart, what the unit costs are depending upon how many units there are in the purchases. And I made some educated guesses, and in bold, as to what I thought those particular invoices represented in the number of purchases. And they're all in this, the per unit cost is in the $25,000, let me say, to $60,000 range. And that's what I remembered from the experiences that I've had in the past 20 years. If we go to the next slide, as I mentioned in the presentation I gave a couple of weeks ago, I did search current vendors, basically for 20-ton rooftop units. And when I did some searching in the marketplace, basically it was recommended, or it was, I don't want to say recommended, but referred to in general for school buildings and medium-sized office buildings that they use these 20-ton rooftop units. And these costs you see here, like on the left, representative cost of about $30,000 for a natural gas unit. And on the right-hand side, the ground source heat pump price, the total is, it says $60,000 to $120,000. But the actual capital cost, this includes a lot of installation work. The capital cost is more in the $20,000 to $40,000 range. So, you know, the basic cost of these things are not too different. They're not $325,000 each. I have not come across any rooftop unit of this capacity size that's $325,000. I also did, and I discussed this with you previously, this analysis. I used the Gemini AI, which I found very intriguing, and that came up with very similar information. In that it says on the bottom line there on the right that the heat pump HVAC system for a 60,000 square foot building, like the Hardy, which is 60,000 square feet, is in the replacing all of the rooftop units should be in the $300,000 to $500,000 range. And if you, I'm sorry, 200, and the natural gas is 250,000 to 360, and the heat pump is 300,000 to 500,000.
Are you on a different slide, Charlie?
I think it's the next slide.
Next slide.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just trying to follow.
I'm sorry.
Nope, it's okay. It's right here.
Sorry. So, so this Gemini analysis sort of is in synchronous with what I learned just sampling real vendors in the marketplace. You know, just trolling through the web and clicking on actual vendors. The vendors I chose, one was Carrier and the other was Dalton or something like that. And I'm not an expert in this, so I don't know whether they're good vendors or bad vendors. But it's what they're selling this stuff at. Okay. So we have some basic in my view, we have some basic CapEx information, and it comes from three sources. One, what the town's been spending this stuff, money on in the past. Two, what the vendors are offering in the marketplace. And three, what this Gemini analysis found doing whatever these AI things do when they go out into the web and check everything and come back with an answer. There was nothing there that was in disagreement with any of the three sources, in my opinion, okay? So the next thing I did was I went to the Arlington Electrification and Air Quality Master Plan and said, okay, what do we have here? And this is a sort of a representation of, in other words, data taken from the plan. And the left-hand side is the CapEx from that plan for the VRF and GSHP installations on the school buildings that are shown there. And I also got the square feet from the capital budget, and then calculated the energy requirements for those buildings based on two sources. One, as reported in the master plan, and the other as reported in the sort of the market standards if you go to National Grid or Eversource, any of these companies on what's required per square foot. And they go to Massachusetts standard kilo BTUs per square foot. It's a hard thing to say, but you get the idea. Energy per square foot. And I highlighted the, in red or maroon, the Hardy numbers, okay? Now, the only thing that is not from those sources is that I changed the nominal number of the nominal number of RTU units on the Hardy to 11, because that's what Jim Feeney told us when he was here last week, even though the model says it only needs 10 or 9 or something. So that's compatible. I couldn't quite tell it wasn't clear from the master plan how many units they were calculating in that document. It's sure it's somewhere, but I couldn't find it in the plan. So using those numbers, I came up with the capital costs. And the median capital cost per unit and the the natural gas the natural gas median cost per unit the natural gas energy cost per year is $97,144 with the natural gas solution, and the electric from the ground source heat pump is around $89,000. This is the energy cost, and this assumes a 400% greater efficiency on the part of the ground source heat pump. So what that tells me is that there's no difference in the literally speaking in the fuel cost that you need for either the natural gas or the heat pump. Now, this is based on today's electric and gas prices. And if the gas price goes up, the gas route's going to be more expensive. If the electricity price go up, then the electricity is more expensive. That's going to happen. We really can't forecast that. But using today's numbers, which look like they're going to be that way for a few years, if you try to look at the forecast data, they're essentially a wash. Okay. Now the capital cost in the column sort of directly under the word air in the title is the capital cost, the expected capital cost that I computed for the natural gas solution, and that compares to the cost in the master plan, which is on the left-hand side for the GSHP. It's $11 million versus $495,000. So this is the crux of my problem. This is such a huge difference that I don't believe doing a feasibility study is worth $10,000, never mind $375,000, until somebody in the town resolves this difference. So the payback, based on the fuel savings, is only 1,339 years. So that tells you that this is not a viable project, at least from my perspective. Next slide, please. So another, and by the way, in the email I sent out today, I did say I appreciated everything that Eva did and the information that Julie and Jim provided, and also Jay McNeil. Oh, Jay.
Yep.
I mentioned, but
Yeah.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, you as well, thank you, yeah.
And Jay McNeil provided some information as well, all of which I appreciate. So this is, I think I said most of the things here, that the experience that the town has, based on the data that I could get, is that these items cost a heck of a lot less than it was on the slide that Julie showed us before, at the rated specifications that are called for a 60,000 square foot building. Now, there was also a report, I initially came across this in the invoices by a company called BLW Engineers. And by the way, we spent an awful lot of money with those people. I hope it was well spent. But this, with respect to the Hardy, he says that the electrical system there is in fair condition, but he says it does not have the capacity to accommodate the proposed future systems. So he didn't say that it wasn't good enough for natural gas current RTU system. He said it wasn't good enough for whatever we have sort of told him we want to do in the future, which is a more expensive solution of some sort. I say that vaguely because there's not enough specification, at least that I could describe and relate to his report, to say why that is true. But I think that this electrical system analysis is baked into those numbers, and that's why we have this big cost differential. Next slide, please. This is where I had my error. So in any event, this is one of the things that Julie sent out, and they have in this list. There's a total of grants of about $8.5 million. Now, one of the things that the analysis done by the town does not include is what's the probability of actually getting all these grants. Now, I'm not trying to, spin numbers on you, but probability theory says that if you have a bunch of independent events, the net effect of those, the probable or expected value of those events is the product of the individual probabilities of the various events. So if you assume that each of these, we have a 90% chance of getting each of these grants, which is pretty high level of confidence, then the probability of getting all of them together, all of them, is 53%. And that says that the very best we could hope for in the grant, I don't want to say the very best. The statistical expected value is $4.5 million, which is, a lot less than the total in the list. So this tells me that there's a lot of financial risk in this project, independent of whether we get the subsidy or not, but for the feasibility study. Next slide, please. So I decided it would be good to look at the lifetime cost comparison. And the left-hand box is the natural gas versus the heat pumps, 20-year estimate with no rebates. Just the raw cost, based on the estimate of the master plan, which is a capital cost of $11 million versus my cost of $500,000. And the total life, and by the way, on the replacement, I assume that the replacement cost for the heat pump is a lot less because it's all work's already been done. So the lifetime cost there without the rebates is 14 million versus 4.4 million. And that includes the fuel consumption growing at a 3% inflation rate. The middle one is the same estimate of the, let's see, what was that? Yeah, that's the raw cost of the $13 million version without rebates that Julie showed on her chart. And in that case, we're talking about $16 million lifetime cost versus $4 million. Again, these numbers, the differences are so big that it's mind-boggling. And then the next is with rebates, and this is where my error is. On this slide, I had the GSHP CapEx at 7.2 million, and as Julie pointed out a few minutes ago, I took the wrong number from that multicolored chart, and it should be about 4.5 million. I think I did look at it a moment ago, and
with all rebates. Yeah, 4.7.
Yeah, 4.7. So it's
A little on the high side of that 4.7, but yeah.
yeah, so when I plug that in, the difference in the right hand table should be the natural gas of 4.4 billion, and the with all of the rebates and all of the things that are in that Joseph's Coke chart, it would be 8.4 million for the ground source heat pump. So that's an error on my part, but it can be shown to be correct. So Annie mentioned air conditioning. I think Josh mentioned air conditioning to me a couple of weeks ago. And first of all, I don't know how much of the electrical changes there are related to the air conditioning or to the heat pump system or whatever. But in any event, I would note I did research. There's a website where you can get all the degree days of anywhere in the world. So I put in our zip code and I got the degree days for the last 3 days. I could have got the last 10 years, but that would have cost me $9. So I decided that it was better just to go for 3 years. But the May, June, and September months are when the kids are in school and it's likely to be warm. And basically, I did the degree days above 72 degrees Fahrenheit because that's sort of room temperature, right? And it turns out in 2023, in May and June, there were 2 days, 4 days, and then in September, 3 days above that temperature. In 2024, there were a total of 6 days, and in 2025, there were 3 days. So, for that number of days, if this is really what's driving the cost here, I have to ask the question, is 11 or $13 million the path we should go in order to get air conditioning for the kids at Harding? And, my conclusion is, no, that's the wrong thing to do. And I would note that Harding's been there 100 years, and it may not be there 200 years, and sooner or later that building's got to get torn down. And it was never air conditioned. And global warming notwithstanding, I can remember when I was a kid in school having more days than that were warmer than 72 degrees. So this is not an existential crisis for kids in the 6th grade who no doubt go outside and run around at high speed in 90-degree weather, So anyway. Now, I have a comment here on the use of consultants. I'm frustrated by the idea of spending $375,000 on consultants to come back with a $5 to $10 million difference in performance here. Now, I counted 11 professionals, not at the management level that you're at, Julie, but people in the department. 11 professionals in the town that should be able to research this and come up with a conclusion as to whether or not we're talking about $100,000 difference or a $5 million difference. And so far, I mean, you've presented some data tonight, but, you know, I have to say I'm not excited about it. I'm not convinced. Let's put it that way. So I'm just I think we even if we get 44% of the $375,000 from the MSBA, and even if we get Sean Grabali or Dave Rogers to give us $100,000 from the State House and reduce that 375 to $147,000, that's still $147,000 of taxpayers' money that we're spending on something where the gap, the reality gap here, you can drive a trailer through, you know, an 18-wheeler. So I think the town has to do more work on this before the finance committee supports it. That's where I'm coming from. So my recommendation, we have to think about whether we should put this money into a 100-year-old school system. We need to think about what the total cost really is going to be. And right now, you know, I'm looking at 50 or 60% less lifetime cost just doing a simple replacement instead of going to this sophisticated system, which we should do if we're building a new building, but we should not do to retrofit at an exorbitant cost. And finally, I'm challenging the position of the town here. I think you need to do more homework and figure and come back with a story. And I don't mean a fictitious story. I mean a narrative that gives some detail as to why you think this project at $13 million is something that we should undertake. Because even if I accept the larger number of rebates and grants, and correct my number down to $4 million, we're still twice as expensive with the solution that's being contemplated. And I don't think that that's reasonable to the taxpayers, and it's not reasonable to the employees of the town, because that's money that could be usefully used elsewhere on other capital projects or in operating expenses. So I'm recommending to the Finance Committee that we vote against this $375,000 warrant article, send it back to town management, let them think it through and come back next year either with the same proposal with more data or none. Thank you.
Okay, before I give you an opportunity to respond, I have a quick question. What other schools have air conditioning?
Actually, I know Thompson does not. It sounds as though the effort to,
You get the whole list of all schools.
okay, will you read it up? It sounds as though Thompson does not. It's a lot of effort to bring in a couple different systems to be able to air condition it when we have to. There's a high cost to that.
So I can go through the quick list. For the elementary schools, Bishop, Brackett, Hardy, Stratton, and Thompson have limited air conditioning, typically in a main office or a library. Then we have Arlington High School has 100% AC. Dallin has 100%. Gibbs has everything but the gym. And Pierce has everything but the gym.
All right, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond, and then I'll open it up to questions and comments.
So Kaya, would you mind going back to the cost estimate slide? Charlie, I'm sorry you're not convinced, but I have to say those costs that you are providing for the RTUs are unbelievable in the true sense of the word. I cannot believe the costs of those RTUs. Our last RTU replacement at Brackett was in 2024, and the average bid was $300,000. So I don't know where those numbers, I don't know where AI has chosen to get those numbers from. The bids that we are getting are in the $200,000 to $300,000 per RTU. Also,
For the existing capacity.
for the capacity needed in our buildings. I don't know the capacity that your RTUs were looking at. Also, ours are not gas units at the Brackett, as Jim was talking about last time we were here. It's a gas boiler, right? It's a gas boiler.
At the Hardy.
At the Hardy, excuse me, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's not the same system that you're talking about. It's not a packaged RTU. So it's not an equal comparison. So I just want to put that out there that that the prices that you are showing are, in my opinion, not realistic prices. I'm sorry that you're not convinced.
And they're not consistent with the bid prices that we're getting.
You had up on a slide that I said the IRA wasn't available. I don't know why you'd had that up there. I did not say that investment, that wasn't available. So I just want to make sure that you're not thinking that that's not an available
You said it in
rebate.
your email.
It's available for ground source heat pumps.
Not for other things.
I think you should go back and look at your email.
Okay, yep, and, let's see, something else I wanted to mention. So if can you go to our slides by chance? Yeah. And,
Go up to Jay's numbers, maybe?
Yeah, that was my error. I took the wrong column on that slide.
oh, I'm sorry, just down 2 more?
Slide 2, maybe?
Oh, is it my this one? No.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
the one.
that's it.
Yeah, this is the one.
So I guess ultimately, Charlie, this is our disagreement, right? The unit cost, that's obviously gonna have a extreme difference in the cost estimation. So, we are getting estimates in the $300,000 range. So, unless we were to receive bids at a much lower rate, which we would certainly accept if we were to be receiving bids at significantly lower prices, but we're not. So it's not.
What capacity, I mean, the numbers that I, there's a definition, a market definition of how much heating or cooling capacity you need per square foot. It creates a model that's used industrially, wide in the industry. And so let's say it's 100,000 of X, right? So a 20-ton unit to provide that amount of heat, you need so many 20-ton units. If you're gonna put a 50-ton unit there, you need fewer. I don't know what your bids were. What I did is I took the actual model. I got quotes I got values from the Gemini solution, and I went out to individual manufacturers and providers and got what they're saying in the case of the I use, a 20-ton unit cost.
So are you talking about the Daikin unit you had at $32,000?
That's one of them, yeah.
Okay, so that's for the unit itself, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody comes and installs it and does design work and connection,
I
and
totally
they
agree.
need insurance.
I totally agree, and that's why I didn't use $32,000. I used $50,000 for the.
Well, so I mean, this is also, I think it's better than anecdotal. My neighbor runs a firm called Pinnacle Piping that does commercial HVAC. And I texted him and said, how much does a rooftop unit cost? He said he's doing one at Northeastern and it's over $250,000.
And what's the capacity?
I don't think it varies by enough to make the argument any different.
Well,
I mean, Jay has a
I'm from
listed
Missouri.
bid with all of the costs that aren't in
I'm from
that,
Missouri.
like we have,
I'm from Missouri. I shared my information. I told you where I got it.
do you wanna look at the bid?
Okay, no.
Okay.
We have
I'm
other
happy to
people who
learn
have
anything.
questions. I don't want to debate an argument. What else would you like to add to this discussion before I open it up to other members? Chris?
A couple things. First of all, in the case of the current Hardy system, the natural gas is being burned in the basement in the boilers. Hot water goes to the roof, and that's what the RTUs handle and generate hot air from. So you'll see in this estimate here that Jay put together that there are also 2 boilers that need replacing at a fairly significant cost. So, and you wouldn't probably want to go to a system that didn't include that, because we're also doing perimeter heat around the building with hot water traveling around the building. So if you really just kind of did the replace the way things work today approach, you end up with more like $4 million because of these costs. Which is, at least in my mind, relatively comparable to the net cost after grants of the various heat pump options. The other thing that I think we should mention, if you could flip to Charlie's slides where he looks at the grants. So when Julie pulled together the grants, she basically tried to pull together the things that seemed most likely. That's where we got the number that we used there. The expected value calculation here is not statistically correct. What's calculated here is the probability or the expected value, assuming that you either get them all or get nothing. So if you want the expected value of all of them at 90% probability of each one, you get about $3 million more because it's 0.9 times the sum rather than 9 to the 6th power, 0.9 to the 6th power times the sum. So that at least using this analysis, you would get a much higher number for the grants if you go try to do it with the expected value. I'm not sure I would say the expected value of each grant is 90%, but yeah, I think you know, the estimation of the town staff about which grants are most likely and which, you know, are great if we get them, is probably good enough, and that gets us to the $4 million number in that cost.
Josh.
It's not true, it's not
Charlie, Josh has the floor now. Josh?
Well, thanks, Charlie, for doing all that work, and thanks to Capital Planning for doing all the work. Quick question. One of the things that we got today was the MSBA acceptance of a fast track by July 1st and September 30th or whatever. Is that, I assume that would be at risk if we didn't approve this,
Yes.
correct?
Yep, yeah, it would need to be accepted by town meeting.
Yeah, we'd probably be booted out of the program.
So that's putting like 4 million at risk. That, again, we don't know if we're gonna get it or not gonna get it, but whatever that 35% is. We know that nothing gets less expensive over time, so any numbers you had from 2 years ago or 3 years ago could easily increase by 50% or more, I would guess. I have no idea, but I think any system that we put in, if it's got like a 25-year life, we certainly should look at, you know, if we're gonna tear down Hardy in 3 years or whatever, but I'm guessing that Hardy and the lifespan of whatever system we put in would probably, Hardy's probably gonna be there for another 25 years, I'm guessing. The number of degree days in June, again, you may or may not believe in climate change, but I think any construction or replacement of HVAC that does not include cooling in this day and age would be just, I don't know. I understand your argument, but it just seems kind of unwise to me. Did the solar system at Hardy include any electrical system upgrades?
No, it did not.
It didn't?
And the electrical, no,
So it was adequate for the solar?
correct. And the BLW report does say that the current system is in fair and poor condition. Original, the switchgear is original, is what the engineering report that we have.
So it would be likely to need upgrading?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know if your estimate, Charlie, includes cooling or not, or any kind of retrofitting inside the building besides the cost of the RTUs. I think that there'll be additional infrastructure. I guess my inclination is A, we put the MSBA money at risk. B, do we trust AI or do we trust actual experience in town? C, I don't understand why you couldn't pull up a PO that had an actual cost for a recent RTU. That must be easily available.
because I don't have access to the POs.
But either somebody must be able to.
I asked Julie for a bunch
So
of.
Julie's, they've all said it's 250, so you'd have to come up with some kind of piece of paper that said, no, they're whatever. So anyway, I greatly appreciate all the work you've done, and it's quite possible that much of what you say is true, but I can't accept that so much compared to the other information I have to put the money at risk and delay it a year. But that's my opinion.
Rebecca?
Thank you. I have two questions. Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
for all your, oh, sorry.
Your numbers don't include well drilling costs also, which I would guess would be like $1.5 million or something like that for geothermal.
I know that.
You don't need them.
For geothermal, well, you probably would need them. Yeah.
So you have to add another million, you're saying.
No, I think that their numbers include it, but your numbers in comparison for the.
But you don't have to drill wells for natural gas.
No, I'm saying that your geothermal, you're comparing like the cost of a geothermal unit compared to a gas RTU unit. And your list price for the equipment does not include the drilling cost for geothermal, which is part of that 13 million.
I think that's the point.
Well, but it's all, I'm just saying, I think your numbers are not complete. I'll just leave it at that.
All right,
They're good, but whatever.
Rebecca?
Thank you. Yeah, so thanks everyone for all your work on this, I think it's really helpful. So if I understand where I think the disagreement, or whatever you wanna call it, comes from the question of if the gas system rooftop units are more like 350, or are they more like 50,000 each? And that doesn't strike me as something that we should have to, debate. That's not a question of like opinions and values and preferences, like we really ought to be able to converge on that number. And that seems to be where we're differing right now. So I just wanna make sure I understand this correctly. The most recent ones that we bought that you believe are roughly the right thing, do you know what we paid for them?
Our last RTU replacement at Brackett was 2024, was 274,000. Average bid was 305.
Okay, so it went out to bid, and presumably if we could have gotten it for $50,000, we would have gotten it for $50,000. Nobody said.
How many units?
Correct.
One, we have the schedule of values for that project, breaks everything down right to the 274. The unit itself was $125,000. And then you have all the other, labor was 15 grand. So, I mean, you have all these other hidden costs.
So the unit was 125,000.
Correct.
What else, Rebecca?
The second question I had, so,
Tonnage.
on the question of the estimate of the grants and rebates, I agree with your way that we calculate the expectation value. I just wanted to ask specifically about the MSBA, because that is the largest chunk.
Yeah.
So when do we know for certain, because calling that a 90% probability is probably not helpful, so when do we know for sure that we got to put it to 100% that we got the MSBA?
So if we are, so we would get MSBA. What I'm not sure about is the reimbursement rate. But we are told that for Audison, we would get 44%, and that it does not go down. And so so if we were to get Audison at that, the thinking is it would likely also be at 44%. We got 42% for eligible costs for the high school. But Talia factored in 35%, and that put the geothermal at 4.7. So I think that's a conservative.
Okay, so we're definitely getting it if we decide to go.
If we were decide to move forward, with this feasibility study. The feasibility study also has a number of things that we need to that they would need to assess as well.
So just to add, the FY26 MSBA electrification program, there were 27 applicants, only 17 of them moved on to the next process. We're in that 17, and I believe there's about 250 million. So as long as we keep moving forward, there should be plenty of money, 250 million divided by 17 communities. And we're looking for 4.5. I mean, I think the chances are very likely, hopefully.
I'll toss the and then Annie.
I've been looking at Charlie's analysis for the last 30 years, and they've generally been really good, especially when he agrees with me. But I think we're not going to solve this debating back and forth here. We could take the entire night. The key is, I think, what Julie pointed out to, do these units cost $350,000, or these units cost $50,000? And I'd like to suggest, and I'm ready to make a motion, that 1 or 2 people from the town, not 5 or 7, but just 1 or 2 people from the town, meet with Charlie, maybe whoever else from the FinCom would like to join, and go through the numbers point by point until they come to an agreement, and then come back here on Monday and tell us what the agreement is. Because I think that's much better use of time than to continue the discussion here when we got these 2 assumptions that are so different. So I'd like to make that motion.
Is there a second? Let's hear some more questions. Annie, you're next.
So I'm looking at your summary comparison here, Julie, and I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
Okay, my first question is, if we don't do the feasibility study, then we're just not in the program and we're not getting the MSBA reimbursement regardless of which way we do this project.
Correct. I would assume we will need to reapply, get back in line.
Okay, and the MSBA is not reimbursing for fossil fuel replacement.
Correct.
And we think that the current gas replacement current system as is, plus adding air conditioning is $10 million. But our cheapest option of all the options in front of us is replacing the gas system without adding air conditioning. And that's a little less than $4 million.
Yes.
However, for not much more than that, we can put in air source heat pumps and get air conditioning in if the feasibility study says that's our best solution and the MSBA will pay for it, pay their share, okay? And if we get some potential grants and rebates. If I'm reading your chart correctly, the only potential grants and rebates you're hoping to get for those air source heat pumps is about $1 million.
Oh, that for the air source heat pumps.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and if you go back a couple of slides to your most likely outcome on grants and rebates, I don't think there's much disagreement between you and Charlie's numbers. He's saying you might get 4.5 million, you're saying you might get between 4.5 and 5 million approximately, because you've done the same kind of discounting that we normally do on grants. And it looks to me like you're discounting more than 90% on the full range. I mean, more than 10%. Okay. So yes, the big debate is in the cost of the units, okay? But the fact of the matter is that if we don't get ourselves in line for this program, we don't have any chance of the reimbursement. And essentially, by not voting for the feasibility study, we're saying we're doing replacing gas. And essentially, we're saying we're replacing gas and no air conditioning because that's what is in the go forward capital plan. Does my logic follow?
Or we come up with another $6 million somewhere, yeah.
Or we come up with the other $6 million?
Right.
Okay, Jay's nodding, Chris is nodding, Joe's nodding, Joe's nodding. Okay, thank you.
Good questions, all. Alan, John?
Thank you. I want to go back to Charlie's slide 12 about the economics of the feasibility study. So what convinced me that it's worth spending $147,000 for the feasibility study as opposed to using the 11 professional staff members and a combination of vendors and Mass CEC and then whatever else we can get our hands on. Why do the feasibility study if we can use quotes or put out RFPs and things?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a question?
That's a question. Why back to Charlie's slide 12.
Why do the feasibility
spend the money
study?
on the feasibility if we can do it with 11 professional staff members and or vendors
Sure.
and CEC and whatever?
It's a requirement as part of the MSBA, as part of the MSBA.
We would be, there's no chance to get the 44% to do the project without investing in the feasibility study.
Correct. They do require us to be a part of this accelerated project right from the beginning. They provide some specific people to work with. Yeah, they have a program that they expect us to be a part of if we're going to be doing it.
Also, the MSBA reimburses that cost at the usual rate, and they'll reimburse it even if we later elect not to build the system.
Right.
And I guess the other thing I wanted to say is that's a real issue for the capital planning committee, at least. Once we see that feasibility study and we see what grants we get, there's a real decision there about what we do. And, we're not taking it as a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a gamble, but you're not
It's
even in the game. You're not in the game unless you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an investment in a possibility,
right,
which we think is probably going to be good, but we got to see.
And if we weren't going the MSBA route, we would probably do a feasibility study anyways to find out the most cost efficient and long term.
Well, let me challenge that then. Why don't we have the 11 professionals in town do that feasibility study?
Because we're not
consultants?
HVAC engineers and electrical engineers.
Yep.
Well, that was sort of my question. If we decide to go forward with gas replacement of the existing units, do we have to have some kind of study planning ahead of time, and how much would that cost?
We would need to hire an HVAC firm to design that for us. And we've had to do that for all our RTU replacements in the past few years.
And how would that cost compare with the $375 million we're talking about here?
$375K. Yeah.
Do you have a sense of what something like that would cost?
I want to say it's approximately $50,000 for one RTU. So An example I can give you is for the police station cooling tower and Park Circle, each fire station HVAC equipment, it was $100,000 to design that, and that was the low bidder. And 98,000 to be exact.
Yeah.
So I just want to emphasize Chris's point. I think to some extent we're getting ahead of ourselves and, building this out. This stage of the project and what's in the warrant article is for the feasibility study. We've had many discussions within, and my four colleagues can back me up, we've had many discussions within the capital committee about, what we would do if the cost came back at a prohibitive level. And I don't think any of us are automatically assuming that we would just go ahead and bless whatever number came back. I think we're fully cognizant of the possibility that numbers could come back at a level we couldn't afford. I think $147,000, net of the MSDA discount and the $100,000 earmark, I think is actually pretty good value for having an independent analysis of the solutions. And I don't know anything about HVAC other than how to turn on the thermostat. But I've been in IT a long time, and as anybody who's been in IT or worked with IT knows, make extensive use of consultants. There's knowledge you have to do your job, and then there's knowledge you have to actually design and architect, and they're not one and the same. And I'm not casting aspersions on any of the 11 consultants we have. I would guess they're probably not HVAC engineers. And then two, there is a lot of value, and I've found this very frustrating at times, in having an independent, objective analysis rather than one done in-house. And at times it seems like, you look at this, I look at the sky and say it's blue, and nobody believes me, and we get the high-priced consultant, and they come in and say, the sky is blue, and everybody goes, wow, what insight that is. That's just how things work. So I think that 147,000 is good value to help ensure that we either can move ahead with the project or we can't.
Molly, did you have a question? No, all right. So Alan and Michael, and then we will vote on Alan's motion.
I just have a question. Can we, as part of this feasibility study, have them do a parallel analysis on replacing the system as it exists?
And the managers agreed to that.
We did talk about that internally. It likely wouldn't be reimbursed by MSBA, and we would have to come up with the funds to do it, but yes, we could do that.
And that would be an additional cost to the original proposal.
Right.
But yes.
So how much additional cost do you think it would be?
I don't even
Maybe
want to guess
100,000.
Yeah.
It's really hard to imagine replacing X with X would cost that much to redesign, so.
But I mean, if you're looking at 25-year-old units that they don't make anymore and trying to replace, modify the existing, your current building infrastructure to fit a modern unit. So you got all those components you gotta look at.
All right, Michael?
Move to terminate debate on all matters under this item's capital plan.
All right, we have Alan's motion, which would postpone everything until Monday, with a subcommittee of Charlie, and I heard Alan Toski volunteering to be this as well, to work with and Annie, to work with the town and come back with a consensus about what the number is. If that motion prevails, we are going to move on to the insurance section. If that motion fails, then we are just going to go ahead and make a decision about these articles tonight. All right, does everyone understand what we're voting on? Josh?
Just a point of information, does the town have capacity to do this by Monday?
Monday
Good
night,
question,
Monday
Josh.
night.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Thank you.
They're gonna
do it for Sunday.
they and our group will do what they can in the time they have. And we may not be any further along than we are now, or we are. So it is what it is. All right, all in favor of Alan's motion, raise your hand. Opposed? 1, 2, 4. Abstentions? 0. All right, we are postponing this until Monday.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Of course. What piece of information would be necessary or helpful? I was gonna go back and look at invoices right now. What could I bring that's gonna say, like, I would look at invoices over the past 3 years. What would be, is it
Yeah.
something that we have to decide,
Or
like?
a quote
Madam
for
Chair,
a
we
replacement.
referred this to committee.
Yeah, you two, Alan, Annie.
Okay, Alan, Annie, Charlie.
Charlie,
Okay,
you decide.
Okay.
You agree.
I-
And if you
I
can't
think you
agree,
pointed-
then
I think you pointed it out.
okay,
It's the cost of the rooftop units.
okay.
If they're 50,000, that's one thing. If
Yep.
they're 350,000, that's another. I think that's the key.
Should be real easy.
We should get Mary Ellen involved and get all bids.
I will.
If we have 5 bids, we should get all 5 of them,
thank you.
times 3 projects.
Thank you for all the additional information. Thank you for coming tonight. And hopefully we'll have answers and everyone will be satisfied Monday.
Wasted on my
I'm
own.
mostly free on
That's
Monday.
right.
Mostly for on
I'm
Monday?
mostly free on Monday. I think our entire committee is retired, so that's.
All right, well, we have to do insurance now, so,
Okay. Question, what about the auditor?
everything's gonna wait, unless
Okay.
you have something you wanna add tonight about audits.
Nothing's critical that couldn't be talked about Monday. Awesome.
Now, we'd be appropriating the 2,500,000 in this warrant article.
We would be, yes, we'd be banning it though, so the cost in 27 and 28 would be 90 and 100,000. But yes, we would be, the appropriation is for the 2.5.
Carolyn, go ahead.
Health insurance, okay, can you pull up the health insurance budget?
What would you like to see?
The one that looks like it's a little budget page, but it's the 15,000, sorry. Okay, let me go back. So it should be inside HR and reclass. One of them says, it's an Excel spreadsheet. In a PDF, sorry.
I is under HR and
15-page
reclaim.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
got it,
Could
okay.
we make a folder called insurance?
And then that's page,
Yes, we can.
yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
I can,
It's
I
under
can
HR.
change
I didn't wanna
that.
mess
Yeah.
with the system.
Go all the way back to page 1. So this is the, there's actually 2 budgets here. Group health insurance is on the top part, and then liability insurance is on the bottom half. And so I assume I'm gonna make a motion and then we'll have discussion. Does that make sense?
What folder is this?
This is in agenda, budget, HR, and reclass. Sorry, I consider health insurance part of HR.
And the name of the document.
The name of the document is,
Oh, 2026, it's the first one. 2026, 3-23. Underscore 27.
oh, the one that ends in
GRC
packet.
Other insurance. The PDF.
We've talked through all 15 pages last time.
That first one.
Did we make a motion already?
Yes,
Make a motion for both, group health and liability?
I was about to. So I move that we accept, and I know we'll have time for discussion, we accept the group health insurance at $28,123,942.
Say that number again?
Isn't it the 28 million,
I see it, yeah.
123,
Yeah.
942?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I move separately or together?
Separately.
And then I move separately that we accept the liability insurance for a total of $817,877. So 817,877.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Do you want to add anything else, Carolyn?
Not necessarily. The offsets are, which was the second page, how much from each of the certain departments support their health insurance supports either water or sewer or the enterprise funds, which includes recreation and retirement. So those offsets are a combination of a bunch of groups, and that's on page 2, which Micaiah has up there right now.
All right, any questions on the insurance budget?
And you've got
On either health or liability? Charlie?
Yeah, whose head's gonna roll over the $400,000 error in the budget?
Carolyn will find that out first.
Nobody said it's gonna roll. And the reality is that someone left in one department, one large department here in town, who was responsible for that department's recording less than a week before they needed to report this, and they only have a week and a half to do this. And it took a couple of days for the town HR to be able to get those numbers so that they could do the work, the additional work. They did enter everything, so they inputted everything. Unfortunately, some of the insurance companies' names changed, policy names changed. And so when they went to export it, those two names didn't come through because they changed. And unfortunately, one of them was not only the most expensive plan, but it had 17 contracts in it. So a contract is any employee that gets either individual or family insurance. They picked up on it in August, so they run those numbers just like they did last week. They picked it up in August, they did an analysis of what happened, and they added procedures to prevent it from happening in the future. And so that's what has happened since they picked up on it in August.
Other questions on the insurance budget, Paul?
So that whole thing just had to do with FY26?
Yes, and they're still determining how they're going to come up with the funds to pay that, because it's obviously it's over the budget.
My question on the FY27, so the group health insurance today is less than the number in the original budget book. Is that because of the GIC changes?
So,
Yes. Yeah, the numbers are better now than when this first proposal, the town manager's proposed budget was issued.
And the unemployment compensation number is higher in this than the original budget. So that goes into the liability insurance.
yes, and the reason unemployment compensation is higher is because of what happened this year, where we had, how much was it? 5, 7, we have 5 people who make over 100,000, and so they're the ones that are causing the deficit this year. And so we're upping that from 150 to 2, and the way we're managing that is we were going to increase something else by 50,000, and we didn't. It's the same.
So the result is the total insurance budget here is somewhat less than the original manager's report. Where is that extra money going to?
That's a good question, not my responsibility, sorry.
Above your pay grade.
It's above my pay grade.
Annie?
It's presumably it's going to reduce the override.
Going to,
Reduce the override, yeah, I mean, that was part of the struggle this year, was to get everything down, so we got to the number we got to. And so, any reductions in budget, that's what they're going for.
About 217,000, so it's not that huge.
Ellen Jones?
This is sort of a point of information that, I always have to deal with. The health insurance cost to water and sewer have gone down a little bit by about, $10,000, which if it trickled through all the calculations, it would go back to, I think, 12 different budgets, where we have to tweak the offsets a little bit. I checked with Julie today, the difference is too small, so we do not have to revisit those 12 different budgets. Or just go into the offset, so that was a relief. So that's just a point of information.
Any good one.
Other questions on the insurance budgets? All right, seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. We have a motion to approve the group health insurance budget at 28,123,942. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, all in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Opposed? Abstentions? 1. All right, the liability insurance budget. There's a motion to approve the budget at 817,877. All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. All right, on to water. Rebecca, do you got? On to water and sewer. After we do water and sewer, rec and rink, and then we're gonna try to deal with our warrant articles. So take it away, Grant.
Wow, we don't want to wait till like 9:45.
Lots of time. So, just to keep us a little energetic here, since it seems to be a long night, I made some hard copies that we're going to get a little energy by passing around the room. So there's actually 4 accompanying documents with this. It's kind of hard to go through this without looking at 2 pieces of paper at once. So you might want to have the budget up on your PC and then use some of this other stuff. But so I have some extra copies of the budget that I'm going to pass around. And this is the revised budget, it's not the one in the budget book. And so we'll pass this around if you don't mind. So if you don't want one, take one and then pass it on.
Where can we find
It's on SharePoint.
It's in the agenda.
What category?
Under water and sewer.
In the agenda?
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
get that.
it's in the agenda. There's a budget folder called water sewer, and 5 PDFs are there from Grant.
All of the documents I'm passing around are like that, but again, unless we can split screen, which we'll figure out how to do, especially on SharePoint, then you probably want this. So the next one I'm passing around is what I'm calling a consolidated, and this is a scorecard. It kind of brings all the stuff together. And this is something I put together to try to help explain the rest of the documents. That's why it has my name on the bottom, it doesn't come from town.
oh, one.
I have very limited copies I'm gonna pass around, save some trees on this. The offsets calculation package, there's only 4 of those. If you want. This is supplied by the town as part of the spreadsheet that tells us kind of what Alan was talking about too. Where they actually do the calculations, where the sausage is made, so to speak. And then finally, the next document we're going to pass around is the summary breakdown. At the end of the budget, there's a summary, and what I've done is kind of adds the water and sewer budget up a different way. So what I've done is created a document kind of helps explain the detail behind the summary, but I call it a breakdown because it kind of sounds like an oxymoron, saying summary detail. Doesn't it? I mean, I didn't feel that way. Oh, good. So Scott, a lot of times what happens, in the past, we had all new members in the budget, so everybody would pitch in and say, for the new members, and they would all discuss this. So anytime they do that, it would be very helpful because it's stuff that I would forget to say or that they would politely remind me I should have said. So if we say for the new members involved, that's what we're saying. I appreciate that. So, do you want to do the articles first, Madam Chair? The articles for the water,
Sure.
70 and 71. Right, so this just comes from the warrant article, but every year the water and sewer asks the town to appropriate or to allow them to borrow, ask the taxpayers to pay for, and the town decides to borrow us up to a certain amount of money. Doesn't mean they borrow all of it, but it allows them to borrow some of it. Article 70 is for sewer replacement lines, and they're asking this time for $800,000. What water and sewer does is they kick in $100,000 from their retained earnings account, and then seek to borrow up to $800,000. And this is generally to replace about a mile of sewer lines, give or take. I'd like to make a motion that we approve for $800,000 of Article 70 for the replacement of sewer lines.
Second.
All right, any questions for Grant? Charlie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this, as I recall, am I correct in remembering that this is interest-free money from the MWRA?
See, that's what I mean, Scott. Yes, this is an interest-free money from MWRA.
Any other questions? All in favor, Grant, did you make a motion?
Yes.
Does it second it?
Yes.
Okay, that's right, Charlie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous.
We plant these people in to help keep the room smaller. It'll happen again on this one. So Article 71 is very similar, where we asked to borrow up to $1.4 million, and this is to replace the water mains. And by the way, they do use technology to determine which ones are more important. But I think it's a game of whack-a-mole, personally. But again, they seek to replace about 1.4, about a mile, but doesn't mean that they get that far. Sometimes they may replace others. By the way, so most often they use contracted services for this sort of thing. It's not necessarily the water and sewer personnel who are doing the work. It's a certain specialty. So I'd like to move that we approve Article 71 for $1.4 million. This is also tax-free money, interest-free money, and also water and sewer kicks in $100,000 from their budget.
Second.
Any questions for Grant? Paul?
So you said the personnel from the water and sewer aren't involved, well, but they don't do the work, but is there oversight by people from those departments?
Yes, the question is there oversight? And yes, they don't do all the work, but they do a lot of it.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, all in favor of 1.4 million for Article 71, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you.
All right. So the next thing I might want to mention is the retained earnings balance that we all like to. I asked Peter for the retained earnings balance, and the certified balance I posted this on as well is $5,401,178. Now, Now for the water, exciting, ever exciting water and sewer budget, but for tonight, we call it the sewer and water budget because that's the order that appears in the budget. And that's not the only thing that doesn't really kind of make perfect order, but it's what we work with. So a water distribution system basically exists to provide, potable water to people. And in our water distribution system, we have what you can call a wholesaler. And in this case, the wholesaler has basically 2 meters, one to meter the water they're giving us and one to meter the sewage that's going out. And in this case, we're going to call this wholesaler the MWRN, because it can be. And the retailer we're going to call the Arlington Water and Sewer Department, and what they do is with meters, but they only use water meters only, distribute the water to the consumers, and then they bill them for both the water and sewer. The Water and Sewer Division kind of does the work, but we also rely on various different town departments, especially DPW and contracted services. The town departments provide things like, legal advice, management, IT, human resources. The treasurer collects money and the postage helps send out the bills. And the DPW provides management, manpower, and also most of the equipment. So what happens is the department charges, or these result in department charges called offsets, and these are split halfway between water and sewer. This budget's a little different, as we say, as we've told in the past, that there's 3 parts to it. There's the operating part of it, there's debt service part of it, and then there's the indirect expenses. It makes it a little bit different than most of the other budgets. So in keeping that sewer comes before water, indirects are going to come before operating. So if you take a look at the budget, and we're going to look at the first group of accounts on the budget, and then we're going to kind of, I figured I'd go and use the reference material to help explain the indirects. So if we look at the budget, which is page 1, not the one in our books, page 1 that's on the site. The first category is sewer indirects. So we start with sewer. And if we look, we see 4 lines. These are all indirect expenses: health insurance, retirement, DPW labor costs, and town admin costs. Now, if we could direct our attention over to that the first thing handout I called consolidated sewer and water budget amounts, purposely to explain offsets and indirect charges. So if we're looking at this, this is great. This little scorecard, this is what I use to keep track of everything. And every offset indirect expense is on this. The top portion is consolidated of sewer and water, explains those 4 lines. The bottom portion redirects us to where the health insurance is, and the offset calculations, retirement, and the labor costs and the admin costs. So if we look at the first section, it says, this is basic, this is on the handout that says consolidated. We see the 4 indirect accounts listed, and these match up directly with which is on the first category of accounts that's on the budget. Same amounts, they should be the same amounts. And then the next line down on the consolidated is the water indirects, because these are split 50-50. So when we get to the water part of the budget, we will see these as well. The next section down combines these. So these are all, the totals of all of these are the actual offset charges. And if you look a little below, we can see, for instance, if we look about the middle of the bottom portion where it says health insurance, see page 1 of health insurance offsets calc. The total of that equals the total that's on the health insurance line. And then half of that is what's on the health insurance, sewer indirect, and water. So that's their funny little, that's their mechanism for allocating the offset cost. Still staying with health insurance as an example, if you go to the other schedule that we handed out. It says health insurance offsets calculation. There's a table there. This sort of explains how this is all calculated. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out about these mechanics of how this works. So if we're looking at the health insurance, if you notice that they have a recommended offset percent that's applied against each of these various different town departments. And that provides the offset. And they apply this against the FY27 health costs. But I think Charlie last year pointed out that this is actually the FY26 health cost. Because we don't know what the FY27 health cost is. This is still a typo.
No, that's not true. It is FY27.
Estimated health cost.
No, that we know what our health costs are. That's why all of this takes so long. And that's why they're crunching numbers for a week and a half before we present. These are FY27 numbers, GIC health numbers.
Based on science.
Based on, yeah. Yeah,
But we
okay,
haven't
so
paid them yet.
we haven't paid them yet. And you're right, people are gonna sign up in April and May, but they're the estimates based on last year's. So they use all of the numbers for where last year's are. And then they put in the cost of FY27. So you're right, it'll be off by a little bit, but it's usually pretty darn close.
Okay, so, thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, sorry.
So the clarification. So the thing I wanted to point out about this is, I think another wise member of our committee said that nothing gets less expensive over time. That's also a nice way of saying costs go up. And so health insurance costs go up. And so therefore, the offsets are going to go up. And when we use the term baked in, this is a great example. It's baked in to the water and sewer budget. All these increases become offsets and get paid by the water and sewer budget. So in addition to the cost of distributing water, these costs are added into the budget to make a final number determination. That's how they set the water rates. So that's how it's done for health insurance. Now, if we look ahead to the next page of this, how offsets are calculated, you see retirements, and that's calculated about the same way it's applied to the retirement cost. But on the third page, we have the water and sewer offsets calculated for other support departments and other DPW divisions. And these have a little different recommended offset applied to them. This offset percent is recommended by a Powers and Sullivan study that was done, I think, maybe before I was born, but I'm not sure. It might have been done more recently, or at least before most of us did. The point is, again, cost increase, so these offsets are going to increase. The amount is based on the FY26 voted budget. So if last year's budget increased, the offset's going to increase. So there are two budgets this time around that offsets did not increase. One was postage, and that was because the actual budget went down. And the other was the town manager, and that's because there was an ARPA position that was. Julie, I think, sent that to all of us. So that's how the offsets are calculated, and again, it's baked in, meaning that all these town support departments go up, and so will the water and sewer offsets, and so will the water and sewer budget. All right, so hopefully that's going to wrap up how the corrects are calculated. We can get back to the budget. And this is where we hold questions until the very end, which is very good stuff. So if we go back to the budget, now that we're done with the offset handouts, go back to the budget, next line down. These are the operating portion of the budget, your sewer collection expenses. And this is probably one of the most, I thought last year this was a really flat budget. This year, it's even more flat, even flatter. Really, the only thing that went up, all things go up in time, is the MWRA assessment. and that's something we have no control over. And by the way, that's done in February, so the budget's already printed then, so it's one of the adjustments that go into the water and sewer budget, and the reason why we get to go next to last or close to last. But in these operating expenses, that's the only thing that increased, all the rest of them stayed the same. The actual, when you look at the actuals, yeah, they may vary a little from year to year, but they typically average out. And the contracted services line may vary depending on the availability or the capability of support staff. So that's an operating portion of the sewer budget. The next portion is going to be the debt portion, which is the sewer debt. And what they've done recently is broken it out into debt that's interest debt and also non-interest debt. We call the non-interest debt the MWRA debt. And if we take a look at the line items with they do have it separated out. For those that the actuals were not booked correctly for the MWRA sewer debt, they're actually mistakenly booked into the line into the water debt. But we do have a breakdown if somebody's concerned about that, but it wasn't zero. Next line down is the stormwater section, and this is mostly handled by contracted services. And again, it's pretty flat, and nothing's really changed. Okay, so that's the should be the sewer portion of the budget. Now, if we move over to the next portion, we actually have the salaries portion. This is still an operating part. This is page 2 of the budget. You have these are actual salaries that staff incurs. They just don't put half of it into sewer. They just have all of it in water. But they do work on sewer. So if we run down the list here, you see salaries increased. Salaries, if you go up in time, the overtime increased again, and the salary portions increased, the rest of the stuff stayed the same. Something important to notice on the staffing is that 4 people, they now have 4 vacancies, 5 vacancies, I think. 4 people left, and 1 is just been outstanding. I asked, always interested about the turnover, and asked like, so what do you think? I'm always interested in why people leave and why that sort of stuff. Where they went, why they left. So I didn't get anything specific about these particular people, staff people, about why they left, but Mike generally says that mostly better fit. And they may not be really able to talk about these particular positions. They may, it's a privacy thing as well too. So, right, so that's the water salaries. They've got except for the salary-related items. Now we go to the water indirect section. These 4 items, this is the health insurance, retirement, DPW, labor cost, town admin cost. These match exactly what we covered under sewer. The total cost of these items divided by 50% divided by half. Now back to the operating portion of our program, back in here. We have the water expenses that's involved with, and these are, once again, the biggest increase has been the MWRA assessment, and we don't have any effect over any control over that. Even if we use less water, we still get billed the same amount. The other items that changed on this is they put some capital items in the expenses here, just to keep things, keep us on our toes. But we reduced the payment on the trench box and we completely paid off the, this is down toward the bottom of the item, toward the capital 1-ton dump truck. Also, the very last line is that's the contribution for the in this case, the water main replacement, this is the $100,000 that we're gonna take in. Sorry, 100 for water and 100 for sewer. And now, we get to the end, the final page, page 3, which is the water debt section. And again, we divide it into water debt, interest paying and non-interest paying. And if you notice on the actuals, these amounts really pretty well line up with the ask for the warrant articles. This year being 1410. So that's essentially the water and sewer budget. The next line section of this is what they call the summary section. And this is basically, you just add up the numbers in a different way. All the numbers that are in the budget are added up into these, but they're added up in a different way. And if you look at the other handout, final handout, which should be the summary detail or detailed summary, call it a breakdown. You can see in the bold print that all of these line items, all the individual budget line items that contribute to this, contribute to the summary are listed on the breakdown. So for instance, on the personnel service summary, that's 3 million. That comprises of DPW labor cost for sewer, indirect water labor cost, and also the water salaries. And that amount that's on the breakdown should be what you also see on the summary page. So we list all of those up, and this year they're all in the correct. Last year they kind of threw some of the capital into other expenses, etc. This way they're all lined up correctly for a total of expenses. And in this case, this year it's 26,137,609. And then in the very last portion with the water sewer enterprise numbers, and this is what they call the revenue portion of it. And they've added a bunch of new categories. I think it's after, where is this? They've added a bunch of new categories, new account numbers. 432020. So sewer permits on down are new, except for transfer to the fund. And there aren't any budgeted amounts for this, but what they did is they lumped all of that into and water into what they call water meters. So all these amounts they've actually actuals for it, but they just didn't bother budgeting for it. They're all lumped into one sum into water meters. So I would like to move that the finance committee. By the way, all this discussion we've had on the override and the last discussion we had on the capital budget, I'm proud to be a member of this committee, by the way. So with that little butter up, we're going to say. Well, I am. I don't know where to put that in, but I figured that must be a better time to put that in than after. Expenses for 26,137,609 and total revenues for the same amount of 26,137,609.
Second.
Okay, questions, Paul and Rebecca?
Three questions. First off, on page 1, the last item, rehab capital under stormwater. What is that?
That is what they take in from retained earnings to do things like maintain storm sewers, replace the those things are that they have. So that's for storm sewer capital improvements.
Second question, where is the actual cost of the water that we have to pay for WRH? Is that, do we charge us in arrears essentially? We get the assessment is based on how much water we used last year.
Yeah, actually that is how it works, because then they bill us for the amount of water that we used and the amount of sewer that we used.
From last year, we pay it this year and moves forward.
It must be how it works.
No, it's metered in real time.
Is it metered in real time? Yeah. I'm told, Paul, it's metered in real time.
When we get the limit,
They have-
turn the valves on.
They have electronic,
Right.
But that's how we know what the waste is, because we know what the MWRA sends in, we know what users are billed for. And in the
Right, but
middle
we
is-
don't, but we don't know it until it happens.
I think it works like every other budget, guys. So there's an estimate and then there's actuals.
So for instance, we did get some numbers. The total water purchased was about 12 million gallons. And
This one might go.
and the water that we metered was 940 million. So then what they do is they take a little estimate about, in this case, it was about 98.41 exactly, unmetered water use, which means like main breaks, flushing fire hydrants and stuff like that. And the difference between that is what we call the unaccounted water,
So, you know,
and which has, by the way, gone down. Dean asks this every year, and I thought he'd be here so we could get because he also said that he wanted to commend the Water and Sewer Department for being, it's been improving every year. I think it was 16% last year, 14% this year.
So, not that it's on this budget sheet at all, but we have this MBTA assessment every year. And that's an assessment that they tell us and we pay it. But this is actually the meter charges that we will have in
That's my
fiscal
understanding.
27. Yeah, this is the estimate as to it. And
The
then.
third question, by the way, is automatically qualifies you for being on the water and sewer budget next year. Got that from Darren. So go ahead, Paul.
Do you anticipate that the select board will have to raise the water rates this year? Or they've been doing that every year? And, you know how much it will have to be raised?
I have no idea about that. I mean, I could inquire on that, but my instinct says yes, everything goes up, the town budgets go up, the offsets go up. How could they not?
Thank you.
And also, if I may, I had asked about what impact the override might have. And the answer I got was, there's no impact because it's an enterprise budget. But there is an impact, because if we have to reduce the other budgets, it reduces the offset charges. So it does in fact have an impact on the budget.
Rebecca.
Thank you. I have a question on the offsets. I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. On the third page of the offsets, these pink numbers, this is the,
the roads
highlighted.
Julie
Yeah.
wants, yeah, that.
This is the amount of those budgets that the analyst has attributed to the work they do for water and sewer, right? And so it's different numbers. Is that
And they do not add up to 100% because they're a percent of the budget.
the percent of that department's budget? Yes, I get that, thank you. And then, but then when on page 1 and 2, those blue highlighted numbers are all the same?
Are those the health insurance ones?
Is that the health insurance?
13.5?
Is that the fraction of their health
Yes.
insurance that is paid by the water and sewer?
Yes.
And I'm not sure it matters, but why is it a flat 13.35 and doesn't just match the numbers on page 3?
Oh, they're different, different studies, and also this is based on the support. The third page is basically based on like how much time they spend.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is based on cost of the health insurance, and cost of retirement.
Okay, got it.
It doesn't, and so, well, yeah, again, this is all consultant provided control.
Charlie and then Michael.
so I probably should have looked this up, but I've been too busy studying 9,000 invoices from the.
Could have been 27 though.
Yeah, it could have been, but it was 9,000.
Could have had the committee do it.
But what balance here somewhere, like I don't call it reserve fund, but there's the money that, the retained earnings, whatever they have, there's a balance, right? Do you know what that is?
Yes, that's the number I mentioned at the
million.
beginning, 5 million.
5 million? And it's been steady.
Yeah, you know, I haven't had the time to look into that since I got all this stuff dropped on me, but, I think so, because if we take a look at the budget, it looks steady.
Okay,
It
thank
looks
you.
like it hasn't increased.
Michael.
I can look that up.
I wanna say thank you to you, because I find this like descending through the rings of hell to figure it out, and I'm like, you are Virgil, you are our guide. Do you know why it is we do it this way? Why we pay so much attention and spend so much effort to figure out how much all these other different departments in town support the water and sewer kingdom when we don't bill legal for their share of IT or the library for their share of HR services? Why is it that we're so conscious of what we're doing for water in all the other town departments? Do you know?
So this is where for the benefit of the new people, other people might take in. Charlie, you.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, I go right ahead. I like to
The
make.
chair has a pitch.
Okay.
Whoever can answer, quickly answer, because we got a lot more to do tonight.
Because the
It's an enterprise fund.
is fee paid, and it reduces the tax rate. All the other departments are paid out of your real estate taxes. These expenses come off the water bill, which is private, it's not part of the tax system.
I thought you knew the answer to that. You're kind of just making a point that it's, yeah. Brian Beck used to basically say it's an additional tax.
It's not.
It's because it's an enterprise fund.
Sophie.
So while everybody was talking, I was going through all my old budgets and trying to understand something about the vacancies. So we only had 5 vacancies compared to 6 last year, but I zeroed in on the senior engineer, which is the last line. And it looks like that position was added in fiscal year 25 because we went up an FTE from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25. And it seems to be empty in all the budget books, fiscal year 25, fiscal year 26, and now fiscal year 27. So have we never had a senior engineer?
I think you've always needed a senior engineer.
Okay.
I
Do we
think
know in HR, does it,
I think we have a hard time
filling.
but I don't think it's ever been filled in 3 years, so at what point do we?
I would say if we didn't need it, then we would eliminate it, but I think we need it. And it's the same way we need the other positions that aren't used for a year, but I think that's, I tend to leave that up to the guy, doing all the.
All right, I'm just surprised we created a position and haven't filled it a single time.
I'm not, but the other thing you gotta remember too is that there's a lot of borrowing going on, because these people, they work hand in hand with the water and sewer people, and the contracted service people, the water and sewer people, I'd say, tell the contracted service, well, this is where the thing is in the ground, and they stand there and watch them do it, so, I think a lot of this is interchangeable, but, I think it still needs a dedicated person for the water and sewer.
Carolyn?
One of the questions that has been coming up is around vacancies and the amounts of money. So this is a good one to look at. If you have your computer open and you have the salary page open, you'll see that the position she's talking about, or if you have the paper copy in front of you, the salary for FY 2026 was $87,354. There's no step added and no longevity added, but the salary goes up a bit, and that's probably the COLA for this coming year. If you go up to the first one, which is the second line down, the first vacancy, if you look at the 26 salary, it's $65,981, but they threw a step in there even though it's vacant, and there's a total that increases the salary. Now that step could be from one of two things. Sears could have been up for the step, and so that's why it's in there, or it could be that they find they can't find a salaried person at that 65, just under 66, and so they're raising the salary to attract people. Now, salaries don't get determined until someone is in the last phases of hiring, and they do an analysis, and that number could be totally different from here. But if the assumption is that the salary needs to be higher, it needs to be put into the budget before the year starts so that they have the money. So that's one of the reasons you'll see when someone leaves, you might see a step added, you might see a change in the steps. There's no changes in any of these steps if you look down. But that's why you might see some of that going on. And you should be looking at your, I know this, this is next year, but you should be looking at vacancies in your salaries and looking to see when there's a vacancy, and particularly if there's a name in the previous, whether or not the salary changed, did it go up, did it go down, and whether or not the step changed. Because that'll tell you a lot about what they're thinking about who they're gonna hire. Often you'll see the step go down if, one of two reasons, if they want a junior staff, or if they want to add steps in for the future employee. One or the other is the reason they're doing that. You'll often see if somebody who's been here a long time, there's the salary in 2026, say, is really high, and all of a sudden you look at 27, it's much lower. And that assumption is that, well, the person won't have the seniority level. So therefore, they're bringing them in at a lower level.
Okay,
So
let's stick with this water and sewer budget.
Sorry.
Thank you, Carolyn, for the tutorial, I appreciate it. Any other questions on water and sewer? Paul?
Just quickly, first off, I got the answer to my question.
You're in, Paul.
The select board on March 6th, earlier this month, increased the water rate by 4.48%.
4.48.
But then I have one more question. What's the status of water meter replacement?
By the way, I think the status of water meter replacement. One of the reasons why I think the unaccounted water has been decreasing because of the water meter replacement. It's not so much of the fixing the water mains and stuff like that. I think it's the water meter replacement.
I think Paul's question is there are some that haven't been changed, and what are we doing about it, right, Paul?
How they handle that, there's only like about 100 left, and so how they're handling that is that they're on the new system. They're just, the radio button click is estimated, so they're not being metered. So they're estimated, and when they actually get on the meter, then they'll have to true up. And Mike's doing a little, again, it's only 100, it's no additional, I asked about this, no additional costs or anything else like that. It's just part of the system does the work, it just is estimated instead. I think they ought to jack the estimate up and get the person's on it or something, but. And then if there's any sales, like when you make a sale of a property, you have to go get a final water bill. And they say, well, wait a minute, we're gonna schedule a meter replacement. So that's how he's trying to get the remaining 100.
Okay, other questions on water and sewer, Carolyn?
Are they gonna start fining them?
No, that's not, I don't know, but wasn't the answer to the question.
All right, any other questions on water and sewer before we move to park, rec and rink? All right, we have a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous? And I will second our gratitude towards Grant for taking care of this very complex budget, and you do an excellent job every year.
Thank you, I still don't know what I did to Alan Toasty to make him put me on this. Someday I'm gonna figure it out. I haven't done that yet.
All right, we have to re-vote rec and rink. I'll turn it over to Rebecca.
Do I need to make a motion to reconsider?
Yes.
I move to reconsider the Recreation Department Enterprise Fund and the Ed Burns Arena Enterprise Funds.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Go ahead.
Okay, so as Caroline discussed, the health insurance increase came in a little bit lower than we were expecting. So because this is an enterprise fund, we need our revenues and our expenses to match, but the health insurance lines on both rec department and the rink, the amount we voted is a little higher than what the actual will be this year, because again, the increase was not quite as high as we expected. So if you first looked at the recreation department budget, the health insurance is the very last line on expenses. And instead of being about $120,000, it's $116,176. So about $4,000 less. And in order to make the revenues and the balance, or the revenues and the expenses balance, she decreased the summer in-house programs revenue by the same amount. That's just an estimate anyway of what she thinks they're gonna make. That's about a 1% change, seems reasonable for an estimate. So instead of being about 471,000, it's 467,356. So the new, I moved the recreation enterprise fund with revenues of $3,302,676 and expenses of $3,302,676.
Second.
All right, any questions about this? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. All right, Rebecca?
Oh, sorry, then just the Edwards Arena.
Oh, yes.
Similar deal. The health insurance decreased by about a little over $1,000. So the health insurance number is now $56,430. And to make that match, they decreased the estimate of their largest revenue source, which is rentals for ice time, should now be $461,169. Again, about $1,000 decrease. So I moved the Ed Burns Arena Enterprise Fund with expenses in the amount of $653,165 and revenues of $653,165.
Second. Any questions on that? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Now I want to go through the warrant. Carolyn, can you confirm the reclass number that we are supposed to have?
The reclass number is, hold on, let me pull that up. $8,585.
8588. 8588?
Yes.
Okay. That's the number I have. I thought we considered it. I thought you had a new number after that.
No, we had additional positions removed, but we didn't change any of the amount for the reclass. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna look at the warrant now, and we'll start with discussion of the select board articles that we had discussed the other night regarding fees and revolving funds. First question I have for people is, do we wade into it? And if so, into them, and if so, what position we take? The articles I'm looking at are 16, 17, 19, 24, 25, 26. I think that was it.
About 8,
That's 8.
dark skies.
8 outdoor lighting. All right, so we have 8 outdoor lighting, 15, 16, 17, and 19 regarding fees, and 24, 25, and 26 with the revolving fund. Let's start with outdoor lighting.
Do we know what the selectmen have recommended on any of these?
Not yet, no.
This was,
Sophie?
this was the one where the town manager wasn't in favor of it? Or said he didn't know what the cost would be to the town yet?
He estimated the cost, and there was, he submitted a memo
It was 45.
to 45,000 to the select board, but I don't think the select board has. The select board, as I understood, took a favorable vote
Without knowing
without knowing the money issue. And the town manager, I think, I gleaned at least that he was not supportive of that article. So, I don't know if at this point we should take a stand. Alan Tosti?
Well, I'm just feeling that $45,000 in added town administrative costs is too much. Even if the override passes on Saturday, we still have cuts to make. And, you know, if we were talking up in the middle of Vermont, that's a different story. But whatever we do in Arlington is gonna be swamped by Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, Medford, all the communities around. So I would, hopefully the selectmen will vote no action and we should support them on that, but I don't think it makes any sense.
Annie and then Carolyn?
So I would suggest that if we don't know what the select board's vote is.
Can you project your voice?
I'm sorry, I would suggest that we don't know for sure what the select board position is, because they haven't heard about the costs yet. That we, if at all possible, we hold off on this and we take a vote that we present to town meeting at the time. Does that make sense? Because otherwise we have to we recommend no action because it's money. And then claim that it's partly our article. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So those, I think, are the choices.
Carolyn?
Is this 45,000 year after year, so every year it'll be about that, one question. Two is this the one where the new guidelines decrease the lighting? Is that the point of it, it's to create the lighting to go down? Okay.
So just to understand, Andy, your comment, so even though it would be an increase to town expenses, we shouldn't weigh in on it?
No, what I'm suggesting is that because it's a select board main motion, and they voted in favor, but they haven't yet heard about the costs, and it sounds like the town manager is gonna try to reopen the issue, that we hold off and we do a will report at town meeting, essentially.
And so if what you're saying is if the select board says no action, then what is our position?
Then we don't do anything. If the select board continues in their position, then we take a position that says, $45,000, we don't want to spend.
So, I don't.
Unless you wanna do it right now.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean.
Just because we haven't given the select board a chance to change their mind.
I don't
And they
think
haven't
we
heard about
should
the money.
care if they change their mind, if it's money, because we're the finance.
But there won't be,
They haven't heard about
the select board has to put this motion in front of town meeting.
And if
And
they
if
could
they
pull
don't,
it.
there's nothing for town meeting to
But
talk
once
about.
it's in the warrant, can a
No.
town meeting member bring it back up?
Sure, and then we can,
So,
Chris
okay.
can stand up and say, $45,000.
Okay. All right, so now I get it. So I guess my position would be, as long as we as a finance committee, when it comes up, if it comes up, says whatever we vote.
Right.
Then I would say to the extent, right, if it comes up, I would vote that we, I would want us to take a position regardless of.
So are you, so am I hearing that you're agreeing with Annie, which is, let's just hold off at this point on what our position is? And if the select board take a position after we submit a report, the report, they'll include in our report, we'll report.
I mean, we could vote a will report now. Do we wanna do that?
But I would say also, if for somehow somebody brings it before a town meeting because it wasn't the warrant, because they want to submit a substitute motion.
Right.
somebody could do that, and I could absolutely imagine it, right? The select board says no action, somebody comes up and says, I mean, I can even think of specific people who are gonna do this, substitute motion to put it back in, I wanna make sure we then respond and have a position that we've agreed on, voted on to respond, does that make sense?
We'll be the first person on the list. Yeah.
A straw poll.
I'm holding you to that,
After
Andy.
Chris gets a chance. All right, so, I just wanna get a sense, those who are in favor of taking no position now, just have a will report position, raise your hand.
And then I have a point of order, or a question.
So 11. For those of you who have not raised your hand, what is your position?
I think we should just put in our report. We don't have to make it our article. We can just say, we hope the select board votes no action, or, and that anything that's.
We just recommend no action.
It's a recommendation, it's not our motion.
So there's, two ways to go here. One, we will report, or we recommend no action, right? Is that the?
Right, I have a question.
Carolyn?
Isn't this the type of topic, the reason we get together for half an hour before town meeting?
No, we have a report. That's why I want to
Okay, so
we have a
okay,
report
so
to
it's
do.
the report.
So that's,
So,
if I'm gonna put
Is there a
in our
motion?
report, we'll report. We need to decide that right now.
Is there a
Or
motion?
if we're gonna put in the report, no action, or we recommend a no action vote, it needs to be in the report now.
Finance committee can report on any article, but it's the main motion of the selectmen. I'd say if, we should just vote no action, recommend no action.
second,
Okay, all,
Did you make a motion?
I recommend no action.
Okay.
I make that motion.
okay, all in favor of, no action, recommended no action in our report on this article, raise your hand. Unanimous.
We're not gonna will report, I know it.
Alright, how about the fees? 15, 16, 17, 19? What are people, Annie?
I'm in favor of positive action on all of these if we want to support the select board.
Second.
Any discussion? Rebecca?
My one question is, we don't know what their fee structure will be. It's a little hard to take a position on that. I'm in favor of them increasing most of their fees, but I could imagine hypothetically, some fee is bananas. So I like the idea of making it easier for them to increase fees without taking it before town meeting, but I'm a little reluctant to approve their new fee schedule if we haven't seen them.
Ellen Toski and then Shirley?
They can't, by law, they can't recommend fees which are higher than the cost of providing the service. I mean, there are some general limits. And we haven't changed these fees in years, like 10, 20 years. So I think, you know, it's a matter of giving each department or board that supervises it the right to set reasonable fees.
Shirley?
so, I think Rebecca and I, we discussed it, remember I sent you that article, more or less is what Alan was saying. But I asked the town manager when he was here, what the redress would be for citizens who objected to fees. And he said that, first there's the department head or whatever, then there's the board of selectmen, and then there's going to court. So, I think that's a rational solution, rather than, otherwise we would be in the weeds on every single fee. Dog license, whatever.
So move to recommend.
Grant?
Thank you, Richard. I can't recall, does this include parking tickets?
No.
Talk about
I thought one of
raising
them
those.
did. See, you mentioned
No,
15, that's lower than money
Parking tickets are
for surrounding communities.
I think collecting, there's
What's
a
that?
warrant article about more efficient collecting parking ticket fines.
I remember him saying that at 15, we were lower than most of our neighbors. We didn't want to be higher, but we didn't just.
Can attest to that.
Yeah, I remember him saying stuff about it, including overnight, fee for overnight parking, you can get away with it, it's better than paying for the pass, but I don't know if it's for this article. I guess is my question.
Does it matter? Does it matter? And in terms of voting on these articles, does it matter whether it includes parking or not?
Good.
Other questions, comments, positions on taking a position on Article 15, 16, 17, and 19?
We have a motion.
I move positive action on 15, 16, 17, and 19. I assume we have to do a series of votes.
Is there,
Point of order, which one is 15?
15 is cannabis.
That's 16, 17, and 19.
Okay, I have 15 being cannabis control.
Okay,
Yeah,
never mind, 16, 17, and 19.
16, 17, and 19?
Second.
All right, so there's been a motion. We'll take individual votes on 16, 17, and 19. But the motion will be for move it for all three, correct? All right, any other questions, Sophie?
I think, Grant, I think it's Article 19 that was talking about delinquent fees and fines being added as means. And that if it's a property owner, that if it's somebody that lives here, that maybe that's where I brought it up. Because that's when we talked about the sidewalks and snow removal, and that would be the one on fees, where it might fall under.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right, all in favor of a positive recommendation on Article 16, raise your hand. Unanimous. All in favor of a positive action recommendation on Article 17, raise your hands. Unanimous. And 19, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 13 to 1. All right, revolving funds. 24, 25, and 26. What is the will of the committee?
Madam Chair, it's 10 o'clock.
What's that?
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm suspending the Mary Ronan rule so that we can get through these. What is the will of the committee on 24, 25, and 26? 24, 25, and 26? Revolving funds. Alan?
I make a motion that we take no position on the three, but the selectmen handle it.
Second.
All right, any discussion on that? Sophie?
I think, if I recall correctly, these are the ones that Charlie was concerned about, too many revolving funds and money being segregated and not available to the town. So I would not be in favor of no, what did you say?
No position.
No position, because I feel like that is a financial concern that the finance committee should address and take a position on. So.
Others? Anybody else want to weigh in? All right, I think Alan has made a motion and it's been seconded. All in favor of no position on Article 24, raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 9. All opposed? Abstentions? None. Okay. Article 25, the community center revolving fund. All was 9 to 5. All in favor of no position vote on Article 25, raise your hands. 1, 2, 8. Opposed? 1, 2, 6, 8, 6, that passes. And the recycling revolving fund, which already exists. This is just to update the language of what already exists as a revolving fund. All in favor of no position, raise your hand. Opposed? Opposed, 1, 2, abstentions? 12 to 2. All right. On to the finance articles. Pay access.
Madam Chair, did we do Article 33?
What is Article 33?
62A. Acceptance of legislation.
We discussed Article 33, and I don't know if we want to take a position on that.
Oh, is that the 61?
Which article is that?
Article 33.
33. I don't think,
We asked about it, but I don't.
I don't think we discussed it. We discussed 31. So decided it was the selectmen. but I
and we
think
took no
33.
action, no position on that. Grant?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Our options are to either support or no action, is that correct?
No position, like we just did, no position,
Or
no
support?
action, or favorable action.
Did we hear about this?
Yes, we did. I would like to vote no action on this. I don't want to give a tax collector any more power to negotiate.
Is that 33?
Yes.
Why does it give them more power when it just allows them to enter into payment agreements, which I understand is already being done?
They can offer an interest-free payback, can't they? So who decides who gets offered that, who doesn't get offered that? Friend of the tax collector? Or?
Does legal have the position, does legal have the power to enter into these, does the town have the ability to enter into these, and then it would have to be the town manager?
This is to basically to adopt provision of general law. Carolyn?
Is this the scenario that I think it was Julie talked about, where the treasurer's office is getting calls from children of elderly who hadn't paid a bill for a number of years because they hadn't kept track of it, and now they have a huge interest rate. And right now, the current law is that interest rate can't be changed. And so this would allow the treasurer's office to be able to, probably not all by themselves, say, okay, instead of the interest which is higher than the actual costs, why don't we bring it down to X?
No, I don't think you can legally do that. I think that's statutory. I think what this is enabling people, the town to do is, okay, we'll have a payment plan. You still have to pay the interest, but we'll agree that you have 3 years before we foreclose or something like that.
And Lynn and I did talk about
Interest will
this.
have to stay the same.
Lynn and I did talk about this when we were doing parking. She said, yeah, I have people coming to me crying, and it's like, this is the law. I can't do anything about it. So that's what that's about.
Sophie?
But this was put in by a citizen, right? So it's not the town manager asking the citizen.
That's right.
No, and it was probably that
Ellen?
You know, this seems much more like a policy area. For the selectmen to deal with. Tax collectors, they can't drop interest rates. The interest rate is not to compensate the town for lost revenues. The interest rate is punitive because you're not paying your taxes. Let this selectmen handle this.
Is that a motion? Alan, do you have a motion? No position?
Yeah, I make a motion that we take no position on 33.
Second.
Any further discussion on Article 33? All right, all in favor of no position on 33, raise your hand. Thirteen opposed. And abstentions, 13-1. All right, we have a PEG access budget amount of total revenues of $676,480 and total expenses of $676,480, which is slightly down from last year, as Julie mentioned.
So moved.
Is there a second? Questions about
What
or
number is
comments?
this?
This is Article 59.
59.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the PIG access budget at 676,480, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we did parking benefits, we did reclass. I have to wait, we have to wait for collective bargaining numbers, which I hope we'll get for Monday. We'll have to wait for amendments to, we're gonna have to report. We'll have to have a will report, article for 63. We are doing town budgets, capital budget, partisan party. Article 68, is there a motion for no action because there's no?
Motion of no action.
Second.
Any questions on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay. Transportation infrastructure fund. The amount for that is
36, 140, 80.
what is it?
$36,140.
Yeah, 36,140.80 for blue bikes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on blue bikes and
So we're
transportation?
still paying them to do blue bikes? Is what,
We are taking the state's money and giving it to them.
Which number was this? I'm sorry.
This is Article 69.
Oh.
All right, all in favor of the Transportation Infrastructure Fund at 36,140.80, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Right, we did 71, 72, 73, 74. Legal defense, 0, we're Article 75. Legal defense is 0, but indemnification is $9,631.
We done the water and sewer?
Yes,
we just did it.
yeah.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions on indemnification under Article 75?
75?
75. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No abstain.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed and abstentions. One abstention. Alright, we did water bodies, the CPA, Harry Barber, private ways revolving funds. There's, the number I have is $1,569,680. Is there a motion?
I move.
All right, this motion has been seconded.
Second.
All right, any discussion, questions, comments on that?
This is to borrow some of money.
I believe so. All right, all in favor, raise your hands. Unanimous. Article 80 is 100,000, I believe, right?
So moved. Second.
All right, any questions or comments about Article 80?
That's the fire. That's the. And this is coming from the municipal building
Yes,
insurance fund.
yes, a transfer out of that fund. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, unanimous. We did 81. The local option taxes is no action.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions, unanimous. We did OPEB, transfer of funds cemetery. How much are we taking from
Oh, I have the
lots and
cemetery.
graves
No,
for
no, I
cemetery? Paul, Molly, you know, is it?
I can pull them up because I had to download it.
How much was capital?
Oh, yeah.
Sarah, can you look it up? I think it's 500, but I'm not sure.
Is it on the salary, on the budget book or no? So I have the budget book, salary here.
270?
Figure out.
270 to cemeteries. Daryl,
I'm double checking.
So it's 270.
and from capital. It's
$500.
all right,
That's for the columbarium.
right.
$500?
No, $1,000.
Are we taking it from lots and graves or potential? Lots and
Lots and
graves.
graves, as I understand, which has 1.2 million in it.
So it's lots and graves.
It's lots and graves. All right,
So I move we take $500,000 from,
lots and
transfer
graves
it from lots and graves to the capital budget.
and 270 from lots and graves to the cemetery budget.
To the cemetery budget. Okay.
Is there a second?
500,000 to capital and 270 to the cemetery budget.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
I wonder how much is in lots and graves.
1.2 million. All right, any questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Overlay reserve, the amount is $1,250,000.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
That was 1,250,000.
The long-term stabilization fund is, our practice is 100,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We have a number for free cash. Yeah,
368820.
So free cash, Article 87 is $11,368,820.
That's the amount we're gonna spend,
That's the amount that we will use at free cash.
that's free cash. Okay, so moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second on Article 87? Second, all right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous?
No,
What's that?
abstain.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, and one abstention. Okay. And the fiscal stability fund.
Can you do this?
We will do this, but I think we will do the Dean Carmen rule, which is if there are changes in the dollar values that are needed.
Okay.
So, but we have a number that is in the ballpark right now.
But is it dependent upon the override?
No. All right, so the number I have for the fiscal stability fund is $1,569,608.
And that's transferred from the fund to the operating budget.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? And abstentions. All right, that does it for as much as we can do tonight. Paul?
If the override passes, then we have to put money into that fund. Does that happen in this article?
No, this is what we have left. And
Well, this says to make an appropriation to or from the fiscal stability study.
Right, so we voted to take 1.5 million out of the motion was out of the fund, presumably zero balance, and put it into the operating budget.
But if the override passes, how do we put money into the fund?
We will have to do that.
We can do
We
that
can do it
on,
Monday.
can't we just do that at a half-hour meeting before town meeting too?
We can do it on Monday.
Yeah, we do it on Monday, because we're meeting at.
I'm not just asking what the mechanism is to fund it,
If we would change the number in this article to
the other direction.
the other direction, but we would have to calculate it based on leaving enough to balance the budget and then taking the rest,
Right.
moving it into stability. And we should know those numbers by Monday. We could certainly get the town manager to give them to us by then.
All right, so on Monday, we're going to finish the capital budget and those two warrant articles. And maybe have to redo everything, depending on what happens on Saturday. And if we don't, then we'll use the time to discuss the thoughts that we've been bandied about throughout the season about what we should be looking at, what we can do better, what's our role in future overrides, what should we do to get prepared for the next one, things like that. We'll take advantage of the time. If we have it, we won't have it if the override fails. And then we'll just have to spend Monday to figure out what else, how we're gonna get ready for time.
Do you have recommended cuts from the manager?
I don't.
You
We
get
have
rid
to
of all the
talk to
vacancies.
our department heads.
Yes, I'm assuming that you all have had discussions with department heads about what if there is no override? What if it fails? And so I'm assuming that there won't be too many surprises among your individual budgets and that you're ready to discuss the impact and what your department has planned to do and how they're, yeah. So that will be for Monday. All right, thank you for staying an extra 20 minutes, I appreciate it. And Alan Jones is going to soon do his
We should be able to
typical,
wrap up all the numbers and, got the latest long-range projection from Julie and hopefully they'll match.
and then we'll do head counts and things like that, so.
Is our goal to finish on Monday?
Yeah.
Yes.
I see you there.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned, thank you.
Alan?